So I just wanted to say I'm a little mad because my phone messed up halfway through chapter 12. It's a pretty long chapter. And then I only finished the other half and the video is not available. So I have to start chapter 12 all over again. But here we go. Chapter 12. I crawl across the mattress and heave a sigh. It has been 2 days since my fight with Peter, and my bruises are turning purple-blue. I have gotten used to aching every time I move, so now I move better, but I'm still far from healed. Even though I'm still injured, I have to fight again today. Luckily, this time I was paired against Mira. She couldn't throw a punch if someone was controlling her arm for her. I got a good hit during the first 2 minutes. She fell down and was too dizzy to get back up. I should feel triumphant, but there is no triumphant in punching a girl like Mira. The second I touch my head to my pillow, the door to the dormitory opens and people stream into the room with flashlights. I sit up, almost hitting my head on the bed frame above me, and squint through the darkness to see what's going on. "Everybody up!" someone roars. A flashlight winds behind his head, making the rings in his ears glint. Eric. Surrounding him are other Dauntless, some of whom I have seen in the pit, some of whom I have never seen before. Four stands among them. His eyes shift to mine and stay there. I stare back and forget that what is all around me. The transfers are getting out of bed. "Did you go deaf stiff?" demands Eric. I snap out of my daze and slide out from beneath the blankets. I am glad I sleep fully clothed, because Christina stands next to my bunk, wearing only a t-shirt. Her long legs are bare. She folds her arms and stares at Eric. I wish, suddenly, that I could stare so boldly at someone with hardly any clothes on, but I would never be able to do that. "You have 5 minutes to get dressed and meet us by the tracks," says Eric. "We're going on another field trip." I shove my feet into shoes and sprint, wincing, behind Christina, on the way to the train. A drop of sweat rolls down the back of my neck as we run up along the path to the walls of the pit, pushing past members on our way up. They don't seem surprised to see us. I wonder how many frantic, running people they see on a weekly basis. We make it to the tracks just behind the Dauntless-born initiates. Next to the tracks is a black pile. I make out a cluster of long gun barrels and trigger guards. "Are we going to shoot something?" Christina hisses in my ear. Next to the pile are boxes of what looks like ammunition. I inch closer to read one of the boxes. Written on it is paintballs. I never heard of that before, but the name is self-explanatory. I laugh. "Everyone grab a gun!" shouts Eric. We rush toward the pile. I am the closest to it, so I snatch the first gun I can find, which is heavy, but not too heavy for me to lift, and grab a box of paintballs. I shove the box in my pocket and sling the gun across my back so the strap crosses the chest. "Time estimate?" Eric asks Four checks his watch. "Any minute now." "How long is it going to take you to memorize the train's schedule?" "Why should I want to have you to remind me of it?" says Eric, shoving Four's shoulder. A circle of light appears to my left, far away. It grows larger as it comes around, shining against the side of Four's face, creating a shadow in the faint hollow beneath his collarbone. He is the first to get on the train, and I run after him, not waiting for Christina or Will or Al to follow me. Four turns around as I fall into a stride next to the car and holds out a hand. I grab his arm and he pulls me in. Even the muscles in his forearm are defined. I let go quickly without looking at him and sit down on the other side of the car. Once everyone is in, Four speaks up. "We'll be dividing into 2 teams to play capture the flag. Each team will have an even mix of members, Dauntless-born initiates and transfers. One team will get off first and find a place to hide their flag. Then the second team will get off and do the same." The car sways and Four grabs the side of the doorway for balance. "This is Dauntless tradition, so I'd suggest you take it seriously." "What do we do if we win?" someone shouts. "Sounds like the kind of question someone not from Dauntless would ask," says Four, raising an eyebrow. "You get to win, of course." "Four and I will be your team captains," says Eric. He looks at Four. "Let's divide up transfers first, shall we?" I tilt my head back. If they're picking us, I will be chosen last. I can feel it. "You go first," Four says. Eric shrugs. "Edward." Four leans against the door frame and nods. The moonlight makes his eyes bright. He scans the group of transfer initiates briefly, without calculation, and says, "I want the stiff." A faint undercurrent of laughter fills the car. Heat rushes into my cheeks. I don't know whether to be angry at the people laughing at me or flattered by the fact that he chose me first. Got something to prove? Asks Eric with his trademark smirk. Or are you just picking the weak ones so that if you lose, you'll have someone to blame it on? Four shrugs. Something like that. Angry. I should definitely be angry. I scowl at my hands. Whatever Forrest's strategy is, it's based on the idea that I am weaker than the other initiates, and it gives me a bitter taste in my mouth. I have to prove him wrong. I have to. Your turn, says Four. Peter. Christina. That throws a wrench in his strategy. Christina is not one of the weak ones. What exactly is he doing? Molly. Will, says Four, hitting his thumbnail. Elle. Drew. Last one left is Mira, so she's with me. Last one left is Mira, so she's with me, says Eric. Dauntless Born initiates next. I stop listening once they're finished with us. If Four isn't trying to prove something by choosing the weak, what is he doing? I look at each person he chooses. What do we have in common? Once they're halfway through the Dauntless Born initiates, I have an idea of what it is. With the exception of Will and a couple of the others, we all share the same body type, narrow shoulders, small frames. All the people on Eric's team are broad and strong. Just yesterday, Four told me I was fast. We will all be faster than Eric's team, which will probably be good for Capture the Flag. I haven't played before, but I know it's a game of speed rather than brute force. I cover a smile with my hands. Eric is more ruthless than Four, but Four is smarter. They finish choosing teams, and Eric smirks at Four. Your team can get off second, says Eric. Don't do me any favors, Four replies. He smiles a little. You know I don't need them to win. No, I know that you'll lose no matter when you get off, says Eric, biting down briefly on one of the rings in his lip. Take your scrawny team and get off first, then. We all stand up. Al gives me a forlorn look, and I smile back at what I hope is a reassuring way. If any of the four of us had to end up in the same team as Eric, Peter, and Molly, at least it was him. They usually leave him alone. The train is about to dip to the ground. I am determined to land on my feet. Just before I jump, someone shoves my shoulder, and I almost topple out of the train car. I don't look back to see it is Molly, Drew, or Peter. It doesn't matter which one. Before they can try it again, I jump. This time, I'm ready for the movement the train gives me, and I run a few steps to defuse it, but keep my balance. Fierce pleasure courses through me as I smile. It's a small accomplishment, but it makes me feel dauntless. One of the Dauntless-born initiates touches Four's shoulder and asks, When your team won, where did you put the flag? Telling you really wouldn't be in the spirit of exercise, Marlene, he says coolly. Come on, Four, she whines. She gives him a flirtatious smile. He brushes her hand off his arm, and for some reason I find myself grinning. Navy Pierre, another Dauntless-born initiate calls. He is tall with brown skin and dark eyes. Handsome. My brother was on the winning team. They keep the flag at the carousel. Let's go there, then, suggests Will. No one objects, so we walk east, toward the marsh that was once a lake. When I was young, I tried to imagine what it would look like as a lake, with no fence built into the mud to keep the city safe. But it is difficult to imagine that there's much water in one place. We're close to Erudite headquarters, right? Asks Christina, bumping Will's shoulder with her own. Yeah, it's south of here, he says. He looks over his shoulder, and for a second his expression is full of forlonging. Then it's gone. I am less than a mile away from my brother. It has been a week since we were close together. I shake my head a little to get the thought out of my mind. I can't think about him today, when I have to focus on making it through stage 1. I can't think about him any day. We walk across the bridge. We will need the bridge because the mud beneath them is too wet to walk on. I wonder how long it's been since the river dried up. Once we cross the bridge, the city changes. Behind us, most of the buildings were in use, and even if they weren't, they looked well tended. In front of us is a sea of crumbling concrete and broken glass. The silence of this part of the city is eerie. It feels like a nightmare. It's hard to see where I'm going because it's after midnight and all the city lights are off. Marlene takes out a flashlight and shines into the street in front of us. Scared of the dark, Mar? The dark-eyed Dauntless initiate teases. If you want to step on broken glass, Uriah, be my guest, she snaps, but she turns it off anyway. I have realized the part of being dauntless is being willing to make things more difficult for yourself in order to be self-sufficient. There's nothing especially brave about wandering dark streets with no flashlight, but we're not supposed to need help, even from light. We're supposed to be capable of anything. I like that because there might come a day when there is no flashlight, there is no gun, there is no guiding hand, and I want to be ready for it. The building at the end just before the marsh. The buildings end just before the marsh. A strip of land juts out of the marsh, and rising from it is a giant white wheel with dozens of red passenger cars dangling from it at regular intervals. The Ferris wheel. Think about it. People used to ride that thing. For fun, says Will, shaking his head. They must have been dauntless, I say. Yeah, but a lame version of Dauntless, Christina laughs. A Dauntless Ferris wheel wouldn't have cars. You would just hang on tight with your hands, and good luck to you. We walk down the side of the pier. All the buildings on my left are empty. Their signs tore down and their windows closed, but it is a clean kind of emptiness. Whoever left these places left them by choice, and at their leisure. Some places in the city are not like that. Dare you to jump into the marsh, says Christina to Will. You first. We reach the carousel. Some of the horses are scratched and withered, their tails broken off or their saddles chipped. Ford takes the flag out of his pocket. In 10 minutes, the other team will pick their location, he says. I suggest you take this time to formulate a strategy. We may not be erudite, but mental preparedness is one aspect of your dauntless training. Arguably, it is the most important aspect. He is right about that. What good is a prepared body if you have a scattered mind? Will takes the flag from 4. Some people should stay here and guard, and some people should go and scout the other team's location, Will says. Yeah, you think? Marlene plucks the flag from Will's fingers. Who put you in charge, transfer? No one, says Will, but someone's got to do it. Maybe we should develop a more decisive strategy. Wait for them to come, then take us out, suggests another transfer. That's the sissy way out, Uriah says. I vote we all go. Hide the flag well enough that they can't find it. Everyone bursts into the conversation at once, their voices louder with each passing second. Christina defends Will's plan. The Dauntless-born initiates vote for offense. Everyone argues about who should make the decision. Forrest sits down on the edge of the carousel, leaning against a plastic horse's foot. His eyes lift to the sky, where there are no stars, only a round moon peeking through a thin layer of clouds. The muscles in his arms are relaxed. His hands rest on the back of his neck. He looks most comfortable holding that gun on his shoulder. I close my eyes briefly. Why does he distract me so easily? I need focus. What would I say if I could shout above the sniping behind me? We can't act until we know where the other team is. They could be anywhere within a 2-mile radius. Although I can rule out the empty marsh as an option, the best way to find them is not to argue about how to search for them, or how many to send out in a search party. It's to climb as high as possible. I look over my shoulder to make sure no one is watching. None of them look at me, so I walk toward the Ferris wheel, with light, quiet footsteps, pressing my gun to my back with one hand to keep it from making noise. When I stare up at the Ferris wheel from the ground, my throat feels tighter. It is taller than I thought, so tall I can barely see the car swinging at the top. The only good thing about its height is that it is built to support weight. If I climb it, it won't collapse beneath me. My heart pumps faster. Will I really risk my life for this, to win a game the Dauntless like to play? It's so dark I can barely see them, but when I stare at the huge rusted supports holding the wheels in place, I see the rungs of a ladder. Each support is only as wide as my shoulders, and there are no railings to hold me in, but climbing a ladder is better than climbing the spokes of the wheel. I grab a rung. It's rusty and thin and feels like it might crumble in my hands. I put my weight on the lowest rung to test it and jump to make sure it will hold me up. The movement hurts my ribs and I wince. Triss, a low voice says behind me. I don't know why it doesn't startle me. Maybe because I am becoming dauntless, and mental readiness is something I'm supposed to develop. Maybe because his voice is low and smooth and almost soothing. Whatever the reason, I look over my shoulder. Forrest stands behind me with his gun slung across his back, just like mine. Yes, I say. I came to find out what you think you're doing. I'm seeking higher ground, I say. I don't think I'm doing anything. I see him smile in the dark. All right, I'm coming. I pause a second. He doesn't look at me the way Will, Christina, and Al sometimes do, like I'm too small and too weak to be of any use, and they pity me for it. But if he insists on coming with me, it is probably because he doubts me. I'll be fine, I say. Undoubtedly, he replies. I don't hear the sarcasm, but I know it's there. It has to be. I climb, and when I'm a few feet off the ground, he comes after me. He moves faster than I do, and soon his hands find the rungs that my feet leave. So tell me, he says quietly as we climb. He sounds breathless. What do you think the purpose of this exercise is? The game, I mean, not the climbing. I stare down at the pavement. It seems far away now, but I'm not even a third of the way up. Above me is a platform, just below the center of the wheel. That's my destination. I don't even think about how I will climb back down. The breeze that brushed my cheeks earlier now presses against my side. The higher we go, the stronger it will get. I need to be ready.